All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at something completely out there, an incredibly unhinged and honestly brilliant comedic movie outline by David Joseph titled May I, or May I. Now, this isn't your standard run of the mill Hollywood script. It's this wildly creative, satirical look at tech billionaires, mass surveillance, and human connection, all wrapped up in a sci fi comedy that basically defies every expectation you might have. We're going to trace the major beats of this story together, taking us from a super sparse boarding house room all the way to the dusty surface of Mars, just to see exactly how this chaotic narrative actually unfolds. Now, right off the bat, you've got to meet our antagonist, Leon Smuck. He's a satirical, hyper-exaggerated tech mogul, and his inner thoughts immediately set the tone for just how chaotic this story is going to be. I mean, Leon is the kind of billionaire who casually contemplates packing up the DNA of every living soul on Earth and shipping it to Mars in a box no bigger than a bread box. He runs a massive company that makes electric cars and rockets, and his ego is literally planetary in scale. He genuinely, truly believes he might be the only man necessary to populate a brand new world. But the true genius of this outline is how it throws three completely disparate characters into a massive collision course. It's like a giant puzzle. We're going to see how Leon's grand obsession with Mars, a disgraced former programmer's incredible coding skills, and the eccentricities of a mostly mute writer named Dave Jones all combine into this wild telepathic conspiracy. So on one hand, we have Leon, who controls infinite resources. Then there's Yu, a brilliant coder hiding out as a barista in Hong Kong after losing her American work visa. And finally, Dave Jones, a 53-year-old guy living in a cheap boarding house. On paper, these three should literally never interact. But in this story, their collision alters the entire trajectory of human history. To give you a sense of Leon's daily life, it's basically a testament to pure chaos. Picture this. He spends his days sitting in endless meetings, aggressively plotting to buy up every major social media platform on Earth just so he can merge them into one giant super app called Muskie. But his real obsession, it's not actually social media. While he's spinning all these massive corporate plates, he is secretly obsessed with a mysterious live video feed playing on a monitor hidden right beneath his desk. It's just a top-down view of a single, completely unremarkable room. And for years, this feed hasn't changed at all. But then, one day, the window blinds in that room are opened. Something is finally happening, and Leon just drops everything to figure out what it is. Turns out, that mysterious room belongs to Dave Jones. Dave is this 53-year-old mute man who just moved into the boarding house. The guy basically survives entirely on Tim Hortons donuts and coffee. He actually carries extra body weight intentionally just so he can fast for days if he needs to. So what is Dave actually doing in this room? Well, he's writing bizarre movie scripts on his laptop. Just to give you an idea, his movie idea number 66 is about God getting so fed up with humans complaining all the time that he actually comes down to Earth to live as a mortal just to prove them wrong. And through all of this, Dave is completely unaware that the richest man on the planet is watching his every single move from a camera hidden inside his ceiling light. So Leon is desperate to crack the mystery of Dave and this room. He realizes pretty quickly that he needs an absolute genius with impeccable integrity to figure it out. Enter Yu. Leon's cousin Doug actually finds her working in that coffee shop, and Leon immediately brings her onto this highly classified project. Her seemingly impossible task? Figure out exactly what Dave is typing. The catch is that the hidden camera can only see the top of Dave's keyboard. It can't see his laptop screen at all. So Yu gets to work and develops this incredibly advanced software she names MAI, which stands for Micro Artificial Intelligence, or as she affectionately nicknames it, MAI. Because she can only see the keyboard from that top-down camera angle, Yu actually programs MAI to capture Dave's raw keystrokes. But think about it. Raw keystrokes are a total mess, right? They've got backspaces, alt-tabs, weird mouse clicks, the whole shebang. So Kat actually trains the MAI algorithm to filter through all that chaotic raw data and separate it into readable emails, chat messages, and even the full, detailed content of his bizarre movie scripts. Without ever once seeing his computer screen, Yu manages to reconstruct his entire life, his mind, and his past history. She is effectively reading his mind straight through his keyboard. Now, okay, here's where things go completely off the rails. Everything changes when Kat finally tracks down Dave and meets him face-to-face at the boarding house. They eventually realize something totally mind-blowing. They don't even need the MII software to read each other's thoughts anymore. They actually share real, legitimate telepathy. When Leon finds out and confirms that this impossible phenomenon is actually real, he instantly realizes what this means for his Mars mission. And how does Leon decide to break this earth-shattering news to humanity? He decides to reveal them to the world on the biggest platform imaginable, Joe Rogan's podcast. Welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience, episode number 3000. Set sometime in the near future, Leon rolls into the studio with Cat Yu and Dave, completely surrounded by personal bodyguards. Joe is understandably incredibly confused. Leon casually introduces them as the very first two people he's sending to Mars. When Joe asks the obvious question, how a mute guy like Dave could possibly be an astronaut, Leon just drops the bomb. He tells Joe they communicate telepathically, which is vastly faster and more efficient than verbal speech. It's setting up to be literally the longest and most earth-shattering broadcast of all time. Of course, Joe Rogan is naturally skeptical. He's asking if this is just an elaborate prank or some slick new tech trick. So they decide to prove it right there in real time. To completely eliminate any chance of visual signaling, Cop Yu actually steps out of the studio and into the hallway. Then, Dave pulls a roll of duct tape out of his laptop bag and wraps it completely around his own head, totally blinding himself. As Cop Yu silently looks at a playing card out in the hall, Dave instantly types the exact card into his laptop, which then speaks it out loud. Joe's still not totally buying it. He thinks, maybe they just memorized a pre-shuffled deck. So he raises the stakes. He has his producer, Jamie, run out and grab a used, completely random deck of cards from the green room. They repeat the whole demonstration. Joe shuffles the deck himself, hands it to Cop Yu out in the hallway, and she speed reads the cards. Dave types every single one of them out instantaneously. It totally cements the biggest internet-breaking moment ever. They just proved verifiable telepathy, without bits or bytes, live to an audience of millions. And this crazy demonstration perfectly sets up the sheer absurdity of Leon's ultimate plan. I mean, traditionally, we think of astronauts as these highly trained pilots and elite scientists, right? But Leon's reality? He's sending Dave, a guy who lived on donuts in a boarding house for 3 years, and Cat Yu, a disgraced coder. Why them? Because their telepathic link is instantaneous. Joe Rogan actually points out that Neil Armstrong was a pilot, not a coder. But Cat Yu perfectly counters him, pointing out that it was actually Margaret Hamilton's code that put Armstrong on the moon. Their telepathy bypasses that standard annoying 3-minute interplanetary communication delay, making them the ultimate, instantaneous command center. But wait, Leon casually announces they won't be going alone. He's sending Dave, Cat Yu, and 50 of his brand new Mars One human androids. Because of that 3-minute radio delay from Earth, Leon realizes he needs boots on the ground to instantly instruct the androids as if they were humans, physically showing them what to do, whether that's clearing rocks or assembling shelters. And in true unhinged, unfiltered billionaire fashion, Leon flat out calls them robot slaves live on the podcast. Fast forward a bit, and they actually do it. They land perfectly. Dave and Cat Yu step out onto the Martian landscape, officially beginning their strange new life. All while the entire world back home watches a continuous live video feed of their every move. They are the ultimate cosmic pioneers, armed with literally nothing but their minds and 50 robot slaves. Now, you might think the story wraps up neatly right there, but here is where the creative process gets wonderfully, wonderfully messy. The author, David Joseph, clearly couldn't settle on just one conclusion for this wild pitch. So instead of a traditional fade to black, he actually gives us a rapid-fire list of completely unhinged alternate endings. It's like you're watching the writer brainstorm in real time, just throwing every possible sci-fi and comedy trope at the wall to see what sticks. And these alternate endings escalate wildly. In one timeline, Dave and Cat Yu populate Mars, create a utopia, and actually discover a particle that grants everlasting life. In another, completely different timeline, they scrap the Mars mission entirely. Instead, they move to Austin, Texas to perform their telepathy as a stand-up act on the comedy show Kill Tony, ultimately saving humanity through laughter. And then, in perhaps the darkest, most cynical ending of them all, they lose their telepathic abilities after smoking DMT, Leon loses his massive fortune, and to completely broke Dave resorts to selling his supposedly telepathic sperm to his gullible followers. This entire story outline for MAI is just a brilliant, laugh-out-loud satire. It hits on modern tech culture, artificial intelligence, billionaire hubris, and our weird cultural obsession with podcasts and surveillance. It takes the very real technologies we hear about every single day and spins them into a wild, totally unpredictable narrative. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. If this bizarre, genius script ever actually hits the big screen, who on earth could possibly capture the unhinged, chaotic energy of Leon Smook? Think about it. Let that question linger as you consider the absolute wild ride David Joseph has mapped out here.